Welcome back in. I'm Kirk Harnack talking about the Axia Altus software and how to configure Axia Altus in your facility. Now, we're going to take a couple prerequisites here. We're going to assume that your Axia Altus is already installed either in your own server or on a server purchased through your dealer from Telos Alliance, maybe the AP3000 server platform, or maybe you have bought the Axia Altus SE, which is a small appliance box like this. And there are a couple other solutions around the world too, like Virtual Rack. So no matter which way you have deployed the Axia Altus, we're also going to assume that you've given it a proper IP address for your audio over IP network. Now remember, Axia Altus works with Livewire and also works with AES67 AOIP. So we're also going to assume that on your network, you've already got some sources of audio coming in. Maybe it's something coming through one of our X nodes or X node 2, or maybe it's some automation computers or other computers running the Axia IP audio driver, and these are already on your Axia network. And we're also going to assume that you've got some destinations. You've already got some places that can take that Livewire or AES67 audio, and you can put it to the destination you want to go to an audio processor. Maybe that has Livewire built into it, or maybe to an EAS box if you're in the United States for emergency alert system. So there's all kinds of places where you may send this audio, or maybe to a computer to record it on a computer. Whatever that way is, this video is going to assume that you already have the things that you want to mix in the console already on your network, and that the destinations you're going to send to, those are already on your network. And with that information in mind, we're going to define sources of audio in the Axia Altus console. We're going to define outputs so that other devices or other places on the network can receive that audio. And then we're going to also look at how to design a profile so that you can have a bunch of sources all come up on the console at your will and mix them together, do your show, do your voice tracking, do your production, whatever it may be, and then switch to a different profile to do some other task. We're going to look at these options for sources as well. Do you need IFB? Do you need mix minus? Are you feeding a codec or a phone line? Are you feeding microphones and headphones in another studio? We'll look at all those configuration possibilities as we begin configuring our Axia Altus. The first thing we'll need to do is browse into the Axia Altus, and we'll browse into just the plain IP address, in other words, port 80. And we're going to use the AOIP networks interface. So for me, in my office, that's 10.216.0.12. You probably set this to something else at your place. But here's the Axia Altus Control Center. This is where we're going to be spending most of our time here in setting things up. And this is the status page that comes up first, but we're not going to be dealing with the status page. Let's look at a couple things. We already looked at licensing in a previous video, if that's necessary for your system, and it probably is. There's a customize button that's pretty important. The Livewire network interface. Because you may have more than one network interface, you need to specify which one is for Livewire. And in mine, that's the one I've browsed into, 10.216.0.12. And hit apply for that. You may need to reboot your container or your Altus SE for that to take effect. You can also change the passwords, and you can do that right here. Good idea to do. You can also log out here if you want to log out. This is where you click to get the surface. We're not going to do that just yet, but we'll do it later. You can also configure the synchronization. This is where it's getting its clock. And the sync source for me in my situation, I've chosen PTP v2 because I've got a PTP clock from one of my X nodes on my network, but you can also choose Livewire clock if you want to do that. The benefit of PTP clock is that you can specify lower latency packets in Axia Altus. If you choose Livewire clock, then you're going with our standard 5 millisecond packets. But with IEEE 1588 PTP-v2 clock, you can choose 1 millisecond packets if you want to. Of course, you'll have to have devices that also talk AES67. And you'd also specify the PTP domain number there. You can see that we are in sync with our PTP clock, and for me, that's coming from an X node that's at address 10.216.0.60. And I have that X node producing both Livewire clock and PTP v2 clock. So that's enough for there. Let's go to the sources. That's where we're really going to spend some time defining our sources. Now, this assumes that you have some sources already on your network. And the way you create a source is you first tell Axia Altus what kind of source you are going to create, because a number of things happen in the background when you choose the type of source. And your choices here: a line input, a computer player, a phone, that's a phone hybrid, or a codec, or maybe an operator microphone, a control room producer microphone, a control room guest microphone, a studio guest mic, an external mic, like somebody on a different floor, down the hallway, down the street. In other words, not in a studio that you're sending speaker audio to, or a studio feed, which would be a whole different studio with their own mixer somewhere else, probably in the same building. So these are your choices. And the main difference in these choices, there are differences in what audio, how the audio is treated, mostly in the mix minus or the IFB audio. But there's also changes that are customized for each one of these for the GPIO and what commands are created automatically based on these different types. So we're going to focus right now on line input, and I'm going to hit create. And so now we get the dialog for creating a line input. I'm going to hook this up to an FM tuner that's on my network right now. And let's imagine that this is an audio source that I might play on the air. Okay. So we're going to call this tuner A. I have two tuners on this network, and it's a live wire source. It's coming from another X node that the tuner is tied into. And so let's click on the primary source, the drop down here. And there it is. The brand name is Directed. It's a Directed tuner, number A here in my listing. And it happens to be Livewire channel 602. That's what's selected. Signal mode is stereo. Phase is normal. For the record bus, if we choose to involve this in the record bus later on, it's in stereo. Most everything here, the defaults are just fine. You don't need to do anything with them. And since this is not a mic source, I'm not going to implement any equalization whatsoever. We'll do that later on mic sources. And then you have source availability. In other words, where do you want to allow people to assign this source? Can they assign it to any of the 8 channels? Sure, that'd be fine. Now, these are grayed out because they're not licensed on my system. So you can click this all channels. You can unclick all, or you can click all. You also have the choice of, do I want to be able to put this tuner into the external monitor feed? And the answer most of the time is no. I like the external monitor feed selection list to be as short as possible, so you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll through a lot of things just to listen to it in external. So personally, I'm going to turn that off. Do I want this available for the mini mixer? Well, I might. Okay, there's no harm there. It doesn't complicate operation whatsoever. Let's look at a couple other features here that you can select. The fader mode, normal fader mode, fader start. In other words, shall I start the tuner with a GPIO when I turn the fader on? No, I don't need that. Or fader start with ARM. So these would be for CD players or computer players or other things that you're going to start when you push the fader up. You have that option to do that. But in my case, I'm just going to leave it on normal, which is no GPIOs going on, when you push the fader up. Do we want a preview mode? Yeah, we want it to be pre-fader when you put that in Q. Fader switching. Do we want the channel to turn on? In other words, when I turn the channel on, do I want preview to be turned off automatically? I could do that. I'm not going to. Or is it when preview on turns the channel off? You may or may not want that. Do you want to automatically start the timer that is visible on screen? You may or may not want to do that. And the logic port. This is for the GPIO. Do you want it disabled? Do you want exclusive mode? Or do you want shared mode? Well, this is a tuner. It doesn't have or need any GPIO. And in this case, I am going to change the default. I'm going to put it on disabled. So there's no logic port going on when I punch this source on the air. And that also, if you choose disabled, you can eliminate a message that pops up on the fader, and that is if the source is used elsewhere in the Livewire network. And I don't care if this is used on all the consoles on the network. This is just a tuner feed. So we're done selecting all of these things. If you need an explanation of any of these, they're all available in the manual. Let's click OK, and we have just created tuner A as a line input. Let's do another line input, and this time we're going to do tuner B, but I'm going to make it a little bit different. Tuner B, I'm going to not allow it to be put on any fader, but as an external only. So let's hit the live wire drop down. And we're going to hit source 603, which is my directed brand, Tuner B. And everything else is fine there. No equalization necessary. I'm going to remove it from all channels. In other words, Tuner B, I'm not going to let anybody put that on the air because maybe it is the air. Yeah, maybe that's the station feed off the air. I will allow you to put it in external. That's the whole point here. You can listen to it in external, and sure, we'll leave it in mini mixer. There is no fader. There's no logic port. Although, yeah, I'm going to put that in disabled also, and we'll hit OK for that. So now we have Tuner A and Tuner B. Let's do the control room microphone. I happen to have one. I have a microphone connected to a mixed signal node Axia X node. And so we're going to say this is going to be the operator microphone. So I can play Boss Jock right along with you. Okay. Operator microphone and create. So here we are. The style is an operator microphone. That means it'll mute the speakers when we turn it on. What shall we call it? Oh, let's call it Boss Jock. How about that? Boss Joke, Boss. Can I tape or not here? Boss Jock. There we go. Source input will be live wire. It'll be coming from that X node. And the primary source, let's go find it here. Where would it be? Because I know I hooked it up earlier. Demo mic. 765 is the channel number on the network. By the way, 765, the way I do my channel numbers, and you may choose to do the same thing, the X node to which this mic is connected has an IP address that ends in 76. It's .76. And this is the fifth input on that node. So it's 765. That number will be exclusive on the network. I don't have any other devices that are at .76, and I have fewer than 10 possible inputs. So as just 0 through 9 is fine, or 1 through 9 is fine for that. So 765 is my channel number. All right, signal mode, left channel only. Sure, it's a microphone. It's only going to be on one channel. I'm going to leave all these the same for now. Let's do some mic processing, okay? We'll turn on the noise gate, and you can play with this and get the numbers that you want. I've got some numbers that I'm pretty comfortable with, about minus 20 dB for the threshold for the noise gate, and the depth when it does kick in, let's make that depth about 14 dB. For the compressor, for my purposes, I'm just going to stick a number in there of about minus 16. And the ratio, I'm going to do about 2.7. De-esser, oh sure, I'll implement some de-esser. So the threshold, let's say it's minus 12. Oops, let's try that again. Let's try minus 12. And the ratio, let's make it 6:1. How about that? Typically need about 3 dB of post-processing trim gain, but you may have your own setup. Equalizer. Yeah, of course I'm going to equalize myself a little bit. I like 67 hertz with a boost of 2 dB. Mids I'm going to leave alone. Highs, I'm going to change it from a peaking EQ to a shelf EQ. I'm going to put this at about 6 kilohertz, and I'm just going to boost it by 1 dB. Your mileage may vary. It's totally up to you. Now, where do we want to allow the operator to put this microphone? Which fader? Well, yeah, we'll build a profile where it always comes up in the same place or wherever they want it. You can allow them to put it anywhere, or we could restrict them. I'm going to allow them to put it anywhere. No reason to bring the microphone up as an external source, none whatsoever, in my opinion. And sure, leave it available for the mini mixer. Fader mode normal, or hey, let's fader start. So if we just turn the fader up, by golly, we'll turn the channel on. Would we ever use preview? I don't know, we might. Channel on turns preview off. Auto start the timer? Yeah, let's see how long we've talked. The logic port? Yeah, I want that exclusive mode. Feed to source disabled. You can read about that. And feed to source dim gain. So I think we're set up there. Let's hit OK. Now we have, whoa, look at that, 3 sources. Let's go do another source. I'm having a good time here. Let's see what else we have on the network. How about we go to another line input, and I think I have a turntable on the network. Yes, I do, right there. So I'm going to call that turntable. Remember when we had 2 or even 3 turntables in control rooms? It's going to be live wire because it's being amplified, or it's being brought into the network through the X node. So that's all good to go. In stereo, normal, yeah, all that looks good. Sure. No equalization. I don't want that available in external. So I want to keep that external list as short as possible. This turntable doesn't have any GPIO capability, so I have to start it manually, separately. Yeah, we'll leave the logic in exclusive mode, even though we're not going to be using any logic. So there's a 4th item on there. All right, let's do one more. Let's do a computer player. And it just so happens that the computer I have on the desk next to the Altus SE, the one that I used to look at the Altus SE, I have an Axia Livewire driver on it. So we're going to pick computer player and create a computer player source. And I'm going to call this the prod PC. The primary source is right here, channel 1301, Dreamfire 01. Well, that's the brand of the PC. So there's all the defaults there. That should be good. No equalization. I want to kill it out of external. I think I'm going to disable the GPIO on that one because I don't have any programs that start with GPIO on that. So there are our inputs. We've defined 5 different inputs. You're going to be defining probably a lot more than that. So that's how we configure sources, quite a few sources, local microphones, a turntable, some audio players of one kind or another, maybe satellite receivers, maybe microphones in a different studio. Once we've got all those things configured, it's time for us to tell the Altus software where to send that audio, or at least how to send it out, how to identify it, and what characteristics that the audio coming out of the console is going to have. So let's take a look at that and how to do the outputs now. So I've browsed into the IP address of the AOIP network on the Altus, and I've gone to the outputs configuration section. Now, there are a lot of things on the outputs configuration section that are good as they are by default. For example, there are 24 available outputs on the Altus console, and most of them have already been predefined for you, but you can change them. For example, the first output is defined as being the Program 1 mix from the console, but you can hit the drop-down and select something else. Now, personally, I have never needed to pick anything else, but there are, if you need several different outputs that may not be defined by default, then you can select something else. But I like to go with the ones that are already there. Now, Program 1, for example, is the first one. And if you want a name override, well, you could do that. Let's imagine that you wanted to override that with a name like WXYZPGM1. That would override the name of this source on your audio over IP network. So that's where you can override that default name if you want to. For the AOIP type, you have some choices, but almost always you're going to have this on multicast. The other choices are unicast and SIP unicast. These are other protocols that are available, but 99 times out of 100, multicast is probably what you want. Next comes the channel or IP address and port number. Now, if you're operating in a Livewire Plus environment, and most of you are, Livewire Plus combines Livewire and AES67 into some very convenient ways that are easily usable across the network with most Axia equipment. And for Livewire or for a Livewire Plus environment with AES67, you can simply give it a channel number. And here's how I do it. Remember earlier in another section here, I said that I like to use the last octet of the IP address of the equipment, and then I just add a 1 or 2 digits after that. So, for example, the last octet of the IP address of this Altus is 12, so it's .12 on the network. Well, you can pretty well assure that you're not going to have a duplicative channel number on the network anywhere if you make this channel 1201. And I'm using 2 digits for the last 2 digits here because this console can certainly put out more than 10 outputs, so 1201. And in fact, you might guess already, hey, well, then the next one would be 1202, and the next one would be 1203, and so forth. Let's stop there, but look at the payload type. Now, they all come disabled, so you're not accidentally, spewing lots of packets on your audio over IP network. This is where you choose whether you want to use a standard stereo live wire for your outputs, and those are 5 millisecond packets, or if you want less latency in the audio, you can choose AES67 stereo packets at 1 millisecond. Now, to use the AES67 packets, you do have to be feeding or syncing with PTP v2 clock. Now, all of the X nodes and X node 2s that are available can do both clocks at the same time, both live wire and AES67's PTP v2 clock. So I'm going to put out program 1 in AES67 stereo, 1 millisecond packets to get the lowest possible delay. Think about it for a second. For your control room headphones, you are definitely want to get the lowest possible delay there. I'm going to go ahead and make this channel 1209. This is the 9th output, so there you go, 1209. And I'm going to go ahead and make it AES67 stereo. Most of your other outputs don't really matter. If you need to have 1 millisecond latency, then you can choose AES67. If 5 milliseconds latency is okay, then you can choose the standard stereo output. And for most applications, the standard output is going to be just fine. So I'll mark a few of those. You can you can do these in any order that you like. And here, I'll go ahead and fill in a few more of these channel numbers, 1204, 1205. We're definitely going to want to fill in all of them that we're going to possibly need on the network. Whoops. Let's make that 1206 and 1207, 1208. We already had 1209. And then we go to 1210. Preview, if we pick it up elsewhere, is going to be 1211. Talk to external, 1212. You probably won't use that, but just in case you do. Studio guest headphones. That's a headphone. We're going to want to make that low latency as well. So let's go ahead and type in 1213. But when we hit this, we're going to make it AES67. I should go back and hit a few more of these. Preview doesn't really matter. If there's a little bit more latency, talk to control room doesn't really matter. And talk to external, again, doesn't really matter. But the guest headphones, you want to make those low latency as possible. Studio monitor, it's going to be channel 1214. And that can be standard stereo. Studio talent headphone. We better make that low latency. So we'll make that AES67 stereo. Once again, modern Axia equipment, like the Axia X nodes, can produce both kinds of clock at the same time for the whole network. Here's the mini mix. We can explain it in the manual later. V mode. I'm going to give that 1217 and give that a standard stereo. Hey, do you need a tone on your network? Well, our developers thought of everything. You can get a 1 kilohertz minus 20 dB full scale tone anywhere on your network and have it generated by Axia Altus. All right, just like a hardwired analog audio console, remember those days, we've got our inputs wired and defined how they're going to operate. We've got our outputs wired, if you will, and defined how they're going to operate. But right now, we're going to make some profiles. So we're going to tell the console what to bring up when we load a profile so that it's convenient and easy to use, and the on-air talent probably doesn't have to go selecting individual inputs. In other words, the console will be ready for use as soon as they select their show profile. Now we're going to create a show profile. The show profile is basically a preset that sets up the console exactly like you or your operators want to use it. And you can have show profiles for different purposes, like just going on the air with a live show, maybe going on there with a talk show with more microphones involved, or maybe setting up for a sports broadcast where you've got your remote codecs coming in and your phone system ready to go. Or you may set it up for voice tracking in the studio. So there's lots of different reasons to use show profiles. There are two ways to make show profiles, and I'm going to show you the kind of the quick and dirty way first, and that is you go to the surface itself. We're going to click on Surface, and there we have our blank surface. We haven't set any show profiles yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to manually set up the console for maybe what I want to do. There's my there's my microphone. Remember that? There's the mic across the room picking me up as I record this. So there's Boss Jock mic, and we want it to go into all 4 program buses. Let's do the guest mic, and we will set that up. And you'll see the guest mic. Actually, I have that mic in use elsewhere, which is why the red bar is through there. And all that means is that I can't control the mic or talk back to it, but I can turn it on and off. I can turn that mic on and off. We'll see that in a minute. It just means that source is in use elsewhere on the network. Let's see. We can also pick another thing. Let's see. Let's go over here a little bit, leave a blank space. We'll go to the prod PC, and we'll go ahead and set that in all 4 channels. And we'll also have the turntable. How about the turntable? And we'll set that. And you can see there's a little bit of noise on the turntable because, oh my goodness, they're so sensitive. And, I don't know. Let's see. I had Tuner A available, so let's go ahead and get that set up. All right, so this is what our console looks like. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and preset the monitor volume a little bit lower than the default of 65%. And the same thing for the headphones. I don't want to pick this profile and have these things blast out. Let's see. What do we want to monitor when we turn this profile on? Let's say that we want to monitor program 1. All right. So the console is set up now for its inputs and its output levels. We haven't really gone under the hood and set anything else that is available. You see all these option buttons? I'll go ahead and explain this now. When you click an option button, you have some options. For example, let's click option, and you have input gain, you have balance and panning. Then we can also go to the EQ. And so I can make the EQ active. Let's see, that is what you can adjust right here, peak or shelving mode on the EQ. All right, get rid of the options there. Now, anyway, we have the console set up approximately how we want it. And now I'm going to go back to the control center page where we control things. I'm going to go to shows, and here's a list of all our possible shows. 26, the number of letters in the alphabet. And I'm going to go to the B show, and I'm going to click capture. There we have it. We have captured the way the console is set up right now. You can see Boss Jock, Guest Mic, Prod PC, and Turntable, and Tuner A. You can see that none of them are captured being on. Don't necessarily want them to be on. You can also see the control room monitor is already set. You can adjust the volume on it. The control room headphones are set. Preview is set. Studio monitor was set. We didn't really look at that, though. And the source selection is set to program 1. All these things are already set up, and we can hit OK. So now we have a show, and by default, it's called Capture. That's one way to do it. And so let's go back to the service now and select none for, let's tell you what, let's select Show A, which actually has nothing assigned to it, as you can see. These meters take a while. They have a very long ballistic range, and they'll go down, and we have a show with that's undefined, the Show A. But if we go back to Show B, look at that. There it is. It comes right back up the way that we captured it. Now, that's one way to create a show. The downside is when you capture a show this way, you capture absolutely everything about the console. And that may or may not be exactly the behavior that you want. If it is, great. Lots of people create shows by capturing their show. But another way to do it is to create the show. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. We go to another show, let's say the A show, and we click Edit. And for the moment, I'm going to call this show Edited. That's as many characters it takes right there. And so now I'm going to manually grab the sources. So let's manually grab Boss Jock. And manually, I'm going to make it a little bit different just so you can see that it's different. Let's do Prod PC. And another source, let's skip one and then go to Guest Mic. And we'll skip another one and go to Tuner A. And then we'll go to number 7 and we'll hit Turntable. And let's see, where do we want these assigned when we bring them up? Well, I guess we want them on everything. By the way, this next line down, this next row, if you want them locked in position, if you don't want the operator to be able to deselect something, then you can put them, you can hit these check boxes right here. But I'm going to leave this available for the announcer to change them if he wants to. It's usually not a problem. There's no source there. Let's go down to the Guest Mic. We'll put that everywhere. Sometimes you may have reason to not put a source somewhere, but I'm going to put these all into all 4 buses. You can also here set up the group start and the auto mix. So if you wanted to, for example, let's say every time we turn on the Guest Mic, we're also going to turn on the Boss Jock mic. Okay, we'll see how that works. And we can also set up an auto mix such that the Boss Jock and the guest mic are auto mixed, and the Boss Jock gets more weight than the guest mic. So we'll go ahead and set that up. Tell you what, let me go ahead and apply that so I don't lose anything if I lose my way here. If you have a Telos VX phone system, or if you have one of our HX6 phone systems, you can put its IP address in here and the studio name and the name of the show that you want to bring up. And when you load this profile on the console, it'll bring up the phone controls right on the console. This is also where I could set up all my settings for the monitors like we did before, but we're going to set them manually. I'm going to set this to -60 and the headphones also at, let's say, -50. I don't know if these are good numbers or not. I'm just showing you that you can set them. The volume adjust is allowed because, hey, maybe you don't want to allow that after all. Maybe you don't want to allow the preview volume to be adjusted. You always want to be sure that it is turned up so that something can be heard there. The source for your initial monitoring, let's say it's going to be program 1, but you can change it. Do you want preview to come into your speakers for your monitors? Yeah, I would say so, unless you want to wire some separate speakers, then you can do that. You can also have your headphones come in, either normal or split headphones, so you can hear preview in your headphones, either split or dim the control room monitors and hear the preview at full volume. We're going to look at the logic ports in a different video, but if we wanted to go ahead and assign a logic port here, we can give this a number. Remember, we're in the 1200 series for all of our outputs. I'm just going to give this a high number. This is kind of my standard. I'm going to give it 1299. 1299 is going to be my GPIO logic port number on the LiveWire network. When the control room monitor, when the speakers mute, it's going to be available to turn a light on or do something because the speakers are muted. Let's say that I want to have something available in external 1. I'll go ahead and assign tuner B to external 1 so that when I hit external 1, well, I'll be listening to tuner B. We set that up earlier as a source here. And that's the only one we have is tuner B. That is enough to set up for now. I'm going to hit apply and hit OK, and we are out of that. Let's go back to the Surface now and bring up our A show. And there it is. You can see it's different. Boss Jock, Prod PC, guest mic, and so forth. And if look at that, if we remember we made this master and slave, so if we turn the guest mic on, it also turns the Boss Jock on. If we turn the Boss Jock on by itself, well, it doesn't turn the guest mic on. So if you had a show with 2 people, every time you turn the guest mic on, the Boss Jock mic comes on too. Just an example of what you could do. You know what we haven't looked at yet, and that is how we actually move a fader up. This is kind of cool. I'm going to use tuner A as a source of audio because it's there, it's reliable, it's full volume. We can turn the fader on, but there's no audio because we haven't turned the fader up yet. This is kind of cool about Altus. You can grab anywhere in the fader travel area and bring the fader up like this. And you can see the meters all started coming up here on our master outputs, program 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can put the fader back down. And again, we don't have to grab it right on that touch area. You can literally click and drag anywhere. And with a touch screen, you can do the same thing. You can literally touch anywhere in there. But here's something else cool. If you just need to bring a fader up to 100% right away, you can double tap or double click right there. And it'll come up to the 0 mark for unity gain on that fader. So that's pretty cool. That's how you create a show profile in Altus. There are certainly other options that you can deal with in there, and all you gotta do is hit edit, and you can go edit the options that you have picked out. For example, you could enable record mode, and you can also enable the timer to be automatic, for example. So a lot of different options are available here, and whenever you make some changes, if you want them to come up, you would simply reload that profile, capture, or edited. So that is the basics of how you make a profile in Axia Altus. It's really just about entirely like all of the consoles in the Axia product line. That's Casey and the Sunshine Band, baby. That's the way I like it here on KIRK Radio. Yeah, you got me. It's Kirk Harnack here. And hey, welcome in. We're just trying out the console here. And of course, got the mic on. The on-air light is on, flashing, and letting everybody know that we are broadcasting. I know I'm hamming it up, okay? But now we have pretty well configured this console. There are more options. Get rid of this. There's more things that you can do with the console. There's certainly more GPIO interaction that you can arrange. You want to make sure that you've arranged for proper IFB and mix minus. Check those out so you can talk back to your callers, talk back to people on a codec, send station audio in with low delay to a codec if you need to do that. A lot of options are available. And don't forget to back it up. There's a backup and restore button. It's a whole section in the control center. You can tell it to back up your configuration. And that way, if something happens, if somebody messes up the config, well, you've got it stored on a local computer. Be sure you show all the jocks how to choose different profiles here from the profile selector and how they can also choose different sources if they need to bring something else into the console. All right. Hope you had a good time. If there's anything I didn't explain well enough to you, well, it's available online in a terrific manual at docs, that's D-O-C-S, docs.telosalliance.com. That's our repository for all the manuals. Just look for the Axia Altus manual. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you have as much fun as I do with the Axia Altus console. We're using it on some of our radio stations and love it. Hope you do too. I'm Kirk Harnack. Thanks for joining us.